Welcome everybody back to another episode of Marketing on Tap vlog and podcast. Sam Fiorella, this is my buddy Danny Brown. Today we're talking about
a good one.
It is a good one. It's got to be like the hottest topic right now on the internet, and certainly with marketers. And it's Nike's 30th anniversary launch of its 30th anniversary campaign of the Just Do It logo, iconic logo and brand that they've come up with. So what's getting all the buzz, of course, is Colin Kaepernick's use of his use in this ad. Of course, they've got Serena Williams, they've got a slew of other athletes, both famous and non-famous, but it's Colin Kaepernick that's really getting all the attention in this campaign. And the reason for that, for those of you that don't know, and I don't think there's anybody in North America that doesn't know the story at this point, but basically Kaepernick was a former, keyword there, former 49ers quarterback who 2 seasons ago began to protest social injustice in a non-violent way by kneeling during the national anthem ahead of an American football game. Other NFL players quickly followed suit, and of course that got the attention of a certain president in the White House, and that just blew up. And so in our political world, we've talked about this now on a couple of podcasts, in our political world, sides were drawn, became a thing, and now the quarterback hasn't been employed for 2 years, and he's filed a collusion lawsuit against the NFL for conspiring to get him out because of his peaceful political protest. Anyway, the campaign, was actually a very good ad campaign if you strip out all the politics and everything else around it. It had a picture of Colin Kaepernick, just do it, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
I mean, even just as a marketing message that stands alone, taking it out of the political backdrop that's also there.
Right, exactly. And certainly, and then with the just do it below it, exactly. I mean, it just really ties in very well. So we want to talk about the good and the bad of this. Is it going to last? Was it a calculated mistake? And I want to reference back to last week. We were talking about brands that are tone deaf, and a comment I made at the end of that. So this is really timely. So. Well, what did you just pour me?
We mentioned end of the summer, and we thought it was end of the summer last week, but no, it's still kicking in there.
Oh my God, it is so hot.
It's crazy. 32 degrees yesterday, with feeling like 40. It was ridiculous. So it's another summer wheat beer. This one's from Black Oak Brewing Co., who's here in Toronto. It's blackoakbeer.com if you want to check them out. It's a real interesting Belgian style wheat beer, and you can smell it right away. As I poured it, you can smell like the Zaz hops. It's got orange zest in there. They also have a touch of spice to give a little bit of kickback on it. It's pretty easy drinking beer. It should be 4.5% ABV and only 15 IBU.
This is the way I like Old Spice.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers.
Cheers. I am such a fan of Belgian wheat. Anything. Yeah. This is fantastic.
This is really good.
Cheers, mate. That's awesome.
That's if you get a chance to try this at Black Oak Brewing, this is a great end of summer beer.
Why have we never been there?
I know.
How is this possible?
We'll have to go.
I think maybe that's going to be our. By the way, it's 9:30 in the morning here.
We wish.
Okay, so let's get back to the ad. Good or bad? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I loved it. As soon as I saw it, I mean, like you say,
you would, but you're so gullible.
I am gullible, but then I'm also, taking it from a point of view that, I know I'm gullible. If I like the picture and the words put together, it goes back to my grade 5 days. I'm good with that. But no, I just thought that the contrast between the image and the word and then put together. And Nike's always been known for pretty bang-on marketing and advertising. And the rest of the ads, when you look at the folks they've used and the message that they've used for the folks in the other ads, I think it's a great way to go for a new audience, as Nike looks to sort of look forward to the next, say, 30 years.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, because obviously there's a lot of social backlash. You cannot deny that, their stock price dropped 3%, I think it was, right, that first day. Investors already knew, this is an iconic brand wading into politics in a way because they're taking a stand on what has become a very divisive issue, or Colin Kaepernick has become a very divisive figure in this political discourse that's going on. And so while this isn't a political show, we can't not help but address the fact that this ad is taking a side, essentially, on a political argument. And so we want to talk about the marketing side of that. my take on that, and I want to get yours, is that they're going after the right audience here. Their audience is 35 and under, like that's really their core audience. So basically the millennials right now, they're the ones that are spending the money. And my experience with millennials is that they want to believe in something. They want a brand that also believes in what they believe.
Right.
And millennials are really looking at brands that are authentic, brands that stand for something, that value transparency. And in fact, they value being real, and even flaws over being perfect.
Oh yeah.
And so this ad really sticks that message right across. This is us.
Yeah.
This is who we are. You know what I mean? Warts and all, we know you're not going to like us, and in fact, that might actually work for us.
Yeah.
Right? Is this something that other iconic brands should follow suit on, or is this just too dangerous?
Yeah, well, you're starting to see. I mean, Ford just came out and messaged their support for the protests and the anthem. Like Dick's Sporting Goods with the gun lobby in the US also, made us, drew a line in the sand, and have not really suffered for it. I mean, Nike this morning, they're back up to over 80 cents, $80 a share, sorry, 80 cents. That'd be bad. $80. So they've already, starting to climb back up. And you have to think that they took the risk knowing they would expect this backlash. But if you look on Twitter and the places that people were, having to go at Nike, for everyone, just like an anecdotal, for everyone, outcry, there's another 10 or 20 people saying, well, I'm now going to buy Nike because it stands for what I stand for.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that, because it's very, again, we've mentioned this, I think, 3 or 4 times now. It's a very divisive environment that we're in.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and we marketers now need to address that. You got it. So last week, at the end of the podcast, I said, maybe if you're a brand, you want to stay away from politics and religion and other cultural things like that, because it's so potentially dangerous, because you don't know. Marketing today, or political science even, not just marketing, but political science is all about how are people going to react to something.
Right.
And on social media, it's a powder keg. You never know how people are going to react. The best of intentions can go downhill. And so it's about this taking a stand now. So I'm not sure that other brands, would want to take that risk. But if they are going to take the risk, what are some of the key elements that they should be focusing on?
Well, I think it's got to reflect with your brand. I mean, people were speaking about Nike, this being a PR stunt. But if you look at Nike's history, like they give so much in the local community. They've got the Nike Incentive Program for the Aboriginals and the Native Americans. They're tied into a kids' hospital where the kids design their own sneakers, and profits go back into the hospital and resources for the hospital. So they've got that background. And I know there's been the stories about the sweatshops that they use in Asia to produce products. So there's always been a sort of weird, counter to the good to do, I guess. But I think if a marketing company or marketing team at a brand like Nike is going to get involved, you have to go full in. I don't think it's a half-hearted thing. You can't sort of put your feet in and hope for the best. And you look at Nike and what they're doing, and they're going full tilt with this, this message. The audience has to be the right one. So like you mentioned earlier, Nike's audience are clearly the audience that aligns with social justice, equality for all, etc., which ties in perfectly to this particular campaign.
But see, not everybody does it right. And we talked about Pepsi.
Pepsi, yeah.
You know what I mean? With the Kendall Jenner, example last week, and clearly that one didn't work.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the audience and them, and well, actually, let's just finish with the Pepsi and Kendall. How could that have done better? Like, I'm thinking to myself, had Coke done that, would it have been any different? Like, I'm thinking, is it the brand, or is it the message and just the execution of it? So had Coke done that same ad, with the same message, the same visuals, everything, I think it would have actually worked for them, right? Because Coke has, if you think about the way that their brand ethos, or their brand has always been come together. Remember, like their Christmas jingles, everybody singing, and it was always about coming together as a family. The Coke, the names on the Coke, and giving it. So that whole message that they were trying to get across with that Kendall Jenner ad, in light of the Black Lives Matter protest, was, can't we all just get along? Right. And so that ties into Coke's brand message, what it's always invested in. Here, what Nike has always done is not just let's just do it, so just do it. But the founder famously said that in the United States, sport is culture,
Right.
and that Nike needs to define that culture, right? That was always the way they started, right? This whole just do it thing, it just sort of ties in. So I think it makes a lot of sense. So I think beyond the points that you made, definitely you're right. If a brand is going to do it, it has to be authentic to them, right? So I think that's got to be one of the, you have to stand for something. So maybe let's look at that you have to stand for something. Do you? One of the articles that I've read recently when I was looking up some of the information around this with great fascination was that a lot of pundits are saying that today brands have to stand for something.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily have to be political, but because people live in a divisive world, everything is black and white, maybe pun intended there, or not intended. Nobody's going to believe that you as a brand stand neutral, right? Robert, our producer here, was very clear, like with anger in his eyes. Don't make this a political show. We don't want to take a stand on politics. That's not what our brand is. But you know what? It's funny because I'm beginning to think that today, to capture audience, it's no longer about getting fans. It's about having fanatics, right? One side or the other. You need to have those die-hard loyal fans, and the way to do that is to align yourself with what they believe in. So is that the case today? Does a brand need to take a stand on social, political, cultural issues to be relevant to today's audience?
I think it's getting, if it's not there already, it's probably getting there. And like you mentioned, the audience for Nike, for example, the age group, if you look at what's happening across, not just in North America, but the globe, where there's very sharp lines being drawn politically and commercially, I guess. And it is about your customers now want you to be like them. We always used to talk about the relationship with the brand, etc. But it's not about that. It's about the relevance of the brand to your beliefs. And it shows you with Nike. If I'm going to buy something, I don't buy Nike. I don't really buy name brands anymore. I'm a cheapskate, Scottish. But, if I was looking for a new one based on this campaign, I would support Nike with my dollars because it aligns with how I feel about racism, bigotry, etc. So, and I think the brands that do it and do it well and do it honestly, they'll succeed from it. Like we say, Nike took a big hit on the stock market, but they're coming back up already. So it'll be interesting to watch this over the next 3 to 6 months and see the real impact. From that.
And I think long term Nike is going to be stronger for this personally, because I think their audience wants them to take this stand. And so while there's definitely a lot of people that don't like what they're doing, the burning of the sneakers that you've been seeing online, and people
which have already paid for.
Which have already paid for. I know who wins in that case. No, but I mean, I would, if I believed in something like that too, and I would have burned the $100 shoes. I actually just bought a pair of Nike shoes. I would have burned them had I believed that this was the wrong thing to do. But I just, politics aside, it's a good ad. But not everybody has done it well. Like if you go back and take a look at Chick-fil-A. Was it 10 years ago? Actually, no. This is when Barack Obama wasn't president yet. There was a whole political backlash against them supporting, or actually not supporting gay marriage or benefits for gay couples that worked for them. So there was a huge backlash there, both positive and there's also a positive backlash because there were people who wanted to support them because it fell in line with their culture or belief, and they took a stand and they were supported, and then all kinds of people who weren't. 10, 12 years later, Chick-fil-A is growing like crazy. They're doing very, very well. And now they're in Canada and they're expanding here. So, I mean, that's one example. But then you take a look at the Dixie Chicks. If you remember, they took a political stand against George Bush Jr. and against the war. And they've not come back. They weren't able to survive that backlash. So sometimes, taking a stand on that, of course, that was 15 years ago, 16 years ago, times have changed. I think it's kind of fascinating to see how we're going, where today, and I may be walking back what I said last week, which is maybe you do need to take a stand, but make sure that it's calculated.
Well, I think it ties in, I mean, you mentioned last week brands can't afford to be tone deaf. And I think Nike with this campaign is showing they're not tone deaf to who their audience is and who the audience is going to be
that's a good point.
To buy the products, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. One other thing I want to put out there. In the influence marketing course that I teach, I'm always talking about the progression of influence marketing, right? And I'm wondering if we're seeing a renaissance of celebrity influence with this campaign, because it used to be that, what part of my curriculum right now is, remember when supermodels were the thing? You know what I mean? Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell, and they were the face of makeup ads. And then that gave way to celebrities. And you notice a lot of female celebrities were replacing the supermodels in those makeup ads because marketers found them to be more relatable to the audience. And then celebrities gave way to real women. Remember the Dove Real Beauty campaign? And so it was just everyday women, senior ladies that were, senior citizens that were being used in the makeup ads. But now all of a sudden, Serena Williams is all anybody wants to talk about, and Colin Kaepernick. I'm wondering if you were going to see this renaissance of celebrity influence coming back, and that brands, should we be pushing them back towards those celebrities?
I think it goes to the kind of celebrity. We spoke about the Kardashian pushback last week, I think. But the two people you mentioned there are inspirational, and I think if you look at inspirational celebrities because of what they've achieved and how they've achieved it versus,
celebrity for the sake of celebrity.
Exactly, right. So I think if you're looking to use it, like Nike's done, for example, get the people that align in it, I'm sorry for repeating this, but align with your brand and your audience's brand values, and have an inspirational message that people want to adhere to be, aspire to be even.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And we're getting the signal. We have our fancy bell. It's last call. So I'll pass it to you, mate. What's the one takeaway from all of the, furor that's happened over the course of this, week with this campaign? What's the one takeaway brands should have, or marketers should have?
I think it goes back, I mentioned it earlier, going full in and really support and stand behind what you're going to stand for. Because if you go in half-hearted, people are going to see that it's not really you, it's not 100% honesty, it's a PR stunt or whatever. But Nike's taking the financial bit. They're doing it with the charity work they already do, and the people they're using and the message they're putting out in this particular environment, it puts them exactly where they want to be, and exactly what they stand for. So for me, it's going 100% or don't do it at all.
Well, contrast that. So I got to ask. Contrast that to what happened when remember the soccer players, those teen soccer players were stuck in the cave. We talked about this in one of our first podcasts, right? And then Tesla's owner famously created that, overnight created this little submarine, backpack submarine to get in there. And the media backlash to him, he was trying to get in on something that was culturally relevant, that was important, that was newsworthy. He wanted to do something, and that backfired on him. So why did that backfire on him, whereas you're suggesting something like this is working for Nike?
I think because it was the fact he made such a big splash. He went there himself. He was trying to tell people, this will work, and it'd never been tested in that environment, etc. And if you look at kind of the news that's followed Musk since then, it's it's shook.
That's my point. It's going downhill ever since that happened.
So I think it just seemed opportunistic versus actually taking a stand for what your brand believes.
Yeah. All right. I agree. And we were told that we shouldn't agree because we don't always agree, but somehow we've been always on the same side.
We'll do like a soccer podcast.
We can talk about that. Then we'll definitely disagree on a lot of things. By the way, Liverpool is still well ahead of Arsenal.
Season's early, but I'm happy for you guys. I love that Alisson mistake the other week. That was awesome. Good to see you're spending $7 million on a more flawed keeper.
I know that's true. That was a pretty big blunder that he had, but we're still number one in the table. So, and Arsenal is what?
Oh, we're about ninth.
Ninth?
We're climbing with a shot.
Okay, well, good for Arsenal. They're ninth. Woohoo! But my final take is, and I think it's got to be, not just go all in, which is definitely, I think, important. If you're going to do it, you got to do it all in. It's got to align. Brands that express a legitimate point of view will never be faulted. And I think that's what it is. It's got to be a legitimate point of view, but one that is culturally relevant with their brand, one that fits with the ethos of their brand. And I think if it does that, it's right. In this case, just do it. The fact that they've always believed that sport is the culture in America, like I mentioned before, this just fit right. Had Puma done this?
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? Or anybody else, New Balance or Under Armour, it would not have fit. And I think the backlash would have been even bigger than what it is right now, and may have had a longer term impact on the brand than what Nike is going to experience. I think Nike will come out, because quite frankly, I don't think I've ever seen or felt that Nike was more culturally relevant than it is
yeah.
today, right? At least that's the general consensus from the consumers, maybe not political pundits, but definitely from consumers. And I guess that's all that matters. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in once again. I want to remind people, if you are in the Toronto area in October, check out senseimarketing.com. We are hosting a one-day influence marketing workshop. It's an executive MBA course that we're doing. It's October 24th. Check out our site if you're interested in attending that. If you like what we're doing here and you want to be alerted, subscribe to the podcast. Hit like on that Facebook or on the YouTube. I don't even know where we are anymore. On the YouTube channel, if that's where you're watching us, or subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to us. So that's it. Danny Brown, Sam Fierro. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.